If anyone has any comments on that, corrections.
I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. It looks like Mr. Goldberg is second.
Sorry, I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, do we need to do, I think we should do a call thing here. So I will say, yes. We're getting so used to this now. It's almost second nature, but I sometimes, you know. So I will signify aye as well. Mr. Vaughn?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Goldbush?
Aye.
Mr. Balsanic?
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes are approved. So without further ado, I will give this to Mr. Hanson to go over the bills, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Bills that we have for July have some safety sign expenses related to the parklet creation in the downtown. That was the major expense we had there. Some final work from Stantec Consulting for the confluence and some of the environmental wood testing work they've done there. That $6,000 bill, I crossed my fingers, and that should be one of the last substantial bills we receive from them. Most of the work should be complete now. They were going through some secondary testing areas on that. And then the rest of them were pretty routine, so I can stand for any questions.
No one has any questions? We'll entertain a motion to approve the bills.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. I will vote to approve them. We'll go on to a vote. Mr. Vaughn, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Goblerz?
Aye.
Mr. Balsanic?
Aye.
Thank you. Any other comments for the good of the order on the bills? Thank you, Mr. Henson. So the next thing we have, business.
Madam President, the first item we've got here under reports and information is a presentation of the Hastings Art Study. And you may recall that in October of last year, we did have a visit from members of HPAC, had some information related to the Hastings Art Study. Tonight, we will have a presentation of some of their findings tonight. So I'm going to welcome Brenda to the meeting here, bring her in, and she can walk through the information and the presentation. So she should be with us here shortly. Can you hear us?
I can.
Great. So Brenda, on the bottom of your screen, do you see a green share screen button there?
Yes, I do.
Well, then you're free to share the presentation. So the floor.
Okay. Great. Okay, I'm getting a host disabled participant screen share.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will enable you to do so. Hold on here. Let's see. I gotta go to co-host. And all right, try it now.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Trying to get the slideshow. It's covering my. Let me try that one more time. Sorry. Well, my apologies. Let me try this again. Trying to get it to go to the slideshow, and it's not letting me do that. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Can everyone see that okay?
All good.
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So thanks for letting me join you tonight and give you an update on this community-driven arts and cultural plan. I'm going to just, in honor of everyone's time, I'm going to read my notes here so that I don't take up too much time in talking too much. So where we are, oh boy. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's just a little slow. So the vision for this plan was quite simply just to foster collaborative efforts and partnerships within the wider community that would celebrate, sustain, and grow a robust and accessible arts and cultural realm within the city of Hastings, and create more business and workforce opportunities for the creative economy. The work of the plan, we gathered the community to inventory and understand just what the city has, and maybe more importantly, to find out what the needs were and to ensure continued success and growth in experiences and opportunities within arts and culture. The plan offers guidance so stakeholders can prioritize, partner, and collaborate on a host of very achievable goals and objectives. So the work, just a little bit of a review of what we've done. Starting in late 2018, the Hastings Prescott Area Arts Council enrolled me as a plan consultant. They were building on work that they had done through their participation in Arts Midwest Arts Lab, and they also had done a local economic impact study with the Creative Minnesota project. Grant writing efforts resulted in fiscal support for the project from the St. Paul Foundation and Xcel Energy. And I began exploring who's been doing what in Hastings and where are the physical manifestations of that work, so stages, murals, etc. I mapped all area artist entrepreneurs, creative businesses, arts and cultural organizations, and then I got out and did some old-fashioned field work. I analyzed the artist data for Dakota County, and then with the help of a local design team and a communications coordinator, we developed the Hastings is Arts brand. So we have a web page, social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which I hope you've all noticed. We did that primarily to help connect and engage the community as we went through the work, but it also sets up the framework for future collaborative work around the plan. Based on recommendations, I had the opportunity to talk at length with 22 arts and civic leaders and active community members. We've had many gatherings to talk about arts and culture. HPAC, the board was very actively engaged as a working group, driving the plan's progress. And we hosted information sessions with art space residents, the Hastings Rotary, Area Rotary Club, the Hastings City Council, and of course you have welcomed me before to talk about the planning process. And we held a very successful arts forum. And finally, I conducted or developed and conducted an online survey with the broader community. And so all of this information that was gathered during about an 8-month outreach time period has been analyzed, and the insights provide the basis of assets and deficits that we see, but it also sets the goals and recommendations for the plan. So I'm now working on crafting the final content, and I'll be collaborating with the design team, which is 2 local graphics artists, to create an accessible document that can be shared and discussed among all members of the Hastings community. And I'm going to just share some highlights from the actual plan with you. So first of all, Hastings is set within this vibrant arts and cultural community, and it could be easily poised to become a hub for arts and culture and creative economic activity. 75% of the creative economic activity in the state takes place in the metro area, and of course, Dakota County is a major contributor. creative industry revenues in Dakota County, based on 2018 Bureau of Labor Statistics and US Census information, 3.3 billion in revenues. For the for-profit sector, 6.8 million within the arts and cultural nonprofit sector. The for-profit sector is led by book publishers, and notably, the nonprofit sector revenues increased by over 525,000 between 2017 and 2018. And that, the largest share of that revenue for the nonprofit realm is actually generated by programming, so ticket sales. So there's some really good activity going on in the county. Not surprisingly, based on being led by book publishers, the top creative job in Dakota County is editor, followed by graphic designer, public relations specialist, writers and authors, and musicians and singers. There's 4,615 creative workers in the county, and their average median hourly wage is $24.14. So the plan really kind of sets up the idea of what collaborative ideas, designs, and tools will Hastings need to craft in order to capture a larger share of this economic vibrancy within the county, and strive towards being more of a hub for economic benefits from the creative sector. And so it's always good to seek answers to these kinds of questions by taking a look at what you have. So I did an inventory of creative assets to establish a foundation. And I developed a creative enterprise map using a framework based on, again, Bureau of Labor Statistics, what they consider to be 40 creative job types that range from actors and photographers to architects and sound technicians. There are people with unique skills and educational background. And a lot of them are employed in other industries, so like the marketing department of US Bank or the designers at General Mills and Target. But they're also very active entrepreneurially and in small businesses and nonprofit enterprises. And so that's what I looked for. I looked for the places where they stand out, where they stand alone, and where they're creative economic drivers all on their own. I located 166 creative enterprises. The charts up above, one of the charts, which is a little hard to read because it's small, but it shows that there's a diversity in genres for those creative enterprises as well. It's a little heavy on the visual artist side, but still diverse. And then a lot of analysis actually focuses on the nonprofit arts and cultural organizations, and they are important economic drivers. That 2016 study that HPAC did with Creative Minnesota showed that they created 2.4 million in economic impact in Hastings in 2016. But there's a lot of creatives that are moving money and inventory through the local economy as full or part-time entrepreneurs and as freelance workers. And so what this asset map actually shows that in fact, 73% or 121 of those enterprises that I mapped are for-profit practitioners of the arts. And so the map's helpful in showing us where activities and events are taking place. And it also is a reminder that when we think about events taking place, nearby businesses are benefiting. Audience members on average spend $27.58 over and above whatever the arts and cultural activity cost is. So let's see, move on to the survey. So the asset map shows this density and vibrancy, and that was borne out by the online survey. We had 520 responses, 88% were your residential and business neighbors. The balance live in the Twin Cities metro area. And a little bit about the respondents. Many were older, although we had a good showing of millennials, but the majority were older, a portion were older. Majority live in Hastings for a long time, and so what we kind of lack in age variation in the survey respondents, we kind of make up for in expertise because they know Hastings. Household incomes trended higher. But what was really interesting is they are quite active in the arts. According to Minnesota Citizens for the Arts, 74% of Minnesotans attend at least one arts event per year. That's higher than the national average. But in Hastings, 40% of the respondents attended 4 to 8 events per year. A good portion of those were in, or I should say 1 to 3 of those events were in Hastings. So in some ways, and the most popular genre was music, so keep sending those young musicians to Blessings Academy. It's because there's an audience for them here, according to the survey. Share a little bit more here. Survey offered a wealth of findings to help guide the plan's recommendations and to set up some help for the community as they gather around thinking through priorities. And so I'd like to share just a few more highlights. And I think this one's really relevant to the work that HEDRA does. Almost 80% of those arts and cultural audience members stated that they attend a restaurant before or after an arts and cultural event. Bars and cafes and coffee shops are welcome stops as well. So going back to that $27.58 spent over and above the event's cost, it's demonstrated clearly in the survey results that arts and culture should be encouraged, if for no other reason, for the benefits this activity brings to other businesses in the city. But of course, there's a host of other good reasons too, beyond leveraging the arts for that. And the plan's going to illuminate those. There are some barriers on growing arts and culture audiences and activity. We learned a bit about why respondents don't participate at a greater scale. Oftentimes it's because they don't know about an event. And so facilitating better promotion of events would be a win-win for artists and for audiences and for those businesses that benefit from the audiences spending money at their places. Respondents are also short on time, not necessarily insurmountable. With some care and attention to planning, there's many ways that you can meet audiences where they are. Relevance was also an issue. Audience respondents questioning whether the interest or the offerings reflect their interests, or do they see themselves in the activities and events. And so there's more reflection that needs to be done on what is being offered, but maybe even more importantly, what's not being offered. And then speaking of relevance, this is kind of a good segue to some needs. Interestingly, overall, 91% of adult respondents rated the city of Hastings as a good or excellent place to live or work. So nice news for Hastings from the respondents there. They like Hastings. But when asked if there were interesting things to do in the city, only 20% said that there were a lot of interesting things to do. 78% said they found only some or few interesting things to do. So as noted earlier, the active participants are finding arts and cultural experiences here in Hastings, but they're also having to go outside of Hastings to find them. So in other words, there's room to grow. And it needs to be done with an eye towards reaching all audiences, regardless of age, household income, race, or ethnicity. So kind of going back to that relevance. What's interesting is this is especially true when planning arts and cultural events for young people. Only 9% of respondents were satisfied with the community's offerings for youth under 18, and almost 20% stated they were not satisfied. So in that diversity of voices, there were comments about not enough offerings outside of schools, not enough offerings for families to do together, and that costs of activities and materials is often prohibitive. So some work needs to be done in the youth area. So there was a wealth of insights that were offered in the survey responses. We also offered 12 short answer questions, and on average, 43% or 223 of the 520 respondents actually took the time to write out an answer and share their deeper thoughts. So that's 2,685 comments on the state of the arts and culture in Hastings. So I may never finish this analysis, but really appreciate the time and attention on the topic. And there were a lot of really great insights gathered from that. We also did, as I mentioned, several information sessions, and that prompted great discussions. And then we held this artist forum and went over a series of ideas and scenarios with 27 arts leaders and participants. This slide highlights one of the strongest desires of the Arts Forum Working Group, the desire to form better networks and to foster stronger collaborations within the arts community itself, but also between the arts community and wider institutional, business, and residential communities. And so listed are some of what they determined are sort of lost or missed connections. So as it relates to community identity, there was a real sense that using art to amplify and celebrate the river environment doesn't happen often enough. They also stated this was true in beautifying the wider community, since much of the beautification efforts have not reached every neighborhood. A connection between downtown businesses and art space artists who are actually entrepreneurs themselves. That might seem like a natural connection due to location, but that needs fostering. And overall, the role that arts can play to help activate local business areas throughout Hastings is ripe for growth, as is the level that property owners can re-envision property uses with support from the city to attract creative entrepreneurs and businesses. So thinking creatively about the use of space. I spoke a bit about the need to better connect with youth programming and the wants of youth and families. And then also the disconnect as it relates to relevance. And this was especially prominent in the idea of how the city is perceived by communities within the city, that there needs to be some work on welcoming all histories and all stories. And that is something that can be facilitated through the arts, through cultural exchange. And so based on all these engagements, we facilitated more formally, basically 663 participants through interviews, information, and working group sessions, and the online survey, and then numerous less formal interactions over the course of the more than 8 months that this went on. That brought to light 4 goal areas with the vision of making sure that the community of Hastings can continue to celebrate, sustain, and grow arts and cultural experiences and opportunities. So vitality as a goal offers objectives in how to ensure that Hastings benefits from the growing knowledge economy through business, organizational, and workforce development in the creative sector. So fill the tough to fill commercial spaces, keep workers in Hastings, attract even more workers to the city, develop a skilled workforce, and increase sales tax revenues. Are kind of like all within that vitality idea. Playfulness as a goal offers objectives aimed at animating public spaces with a diversity of narratives and beautifying with artifacts and activities throughout the city. Engagement as a goal offers objective ways to tap into the power and well-being of lifelong learning in the arts, and welcoming, understanding, and engaging with all members of community. And that, of course, would also be an area that encompasses that conversation around youth. And then infrastructure as a goal sets objectives to ensure that all of this can happen, to ensure the desired vibrancy, beauty, and power of the arts and culture can thrive and grow. It's the collaborative work of diverse partners coming together to promote and pave the way for experiences and opportunities to happen. So recommendations, I used actually an ad here for, it was a call for artists to do a mural on the back of this building, which actually I meant to check to see if that had been done, if the mural had been completed. This is right by the riverfront, if anyone knows.
Yeah, not yet. We had some delays on that one with COVID coming up, but.
Oh, okay, yeah. But in some ways, the recommendations are that same idea of you've got a good structure there, and these are recommendations to build on it to make it even better through the arts. So when the plan is complete, the community can begin to gather and set short and long-term priorities. The Hastings' arts platforms, the webpage and social media accounts offer a space to share and plan and begin those discussions. And this is where the collective community of expertise can come together to find intersections, those sweet spots where arts and culture benefit businesses, and the business of the arts is offered space to grow. Success will come from learning, leaning on the proven value of nonprofit organizations and an understanding that the entirety of for and nonprofit is actually a creative ecosystem. And a lot of workforce actually moves through both realms. Success will come from cultivating allies and fostering networks within and beyond Hastings. So looking at regional partnerships, maybe some conversations around looking at riverfront towns along the St. Croix. Basically not letting anything happen with the arts or not letting anything to do with the arts happen in a vacuum. So to amplify and to truly leverage the power and value of the arts to grow opportunities, because this is what attracts wallets, this is what attracts new businesses, this is what attracts residents to Hastings. So opening pathways to creativity through policies, initiatives that animate and invite. And so, of course, within the plan itself, those recommendations are in much more detail, but I just kind of wanted to give you an outline of how that conversation is introduced. And so I'm going to end here because, of course, I've got to get back to reading those 2,685 survey responses. No, I'm kidding. But all kidding aside, I do want to also just kind of mention that the assets this plan celebrates could not be any more in need of the community support right now because the pandemic's impacts have been devastating to the industry. Americans for the Arts states that 94% of artists and creative workers have lost income. 62% are fully unemployed. 96% of organizations have, nonprofit organizations have canceled their calendar of events through the end of the summer. And nationally, just to kind of give you an idea, that's a loss of 339 million admissions, and $10.7 billion in ticket revenues. And of course, Senator Klobuchar has introduced a legislation to support the for-profit venues so that whole industry doesn't collapse and you can still go and see the music that you like to see. I think we can be hopeful. The creative sector actually led the recovery after the 2008 recession. Job growth in this area of the knowledge economy is very strong. And in fact, job growth after the recession or from the period between 2006 and 2016 was higher than it was in many other industries. But there's, this pandemic means that there's a lot of work to do. And so, of course, when we started doing this inventory and looking at these assets, it was a little bit of a different world. But the hope is that the recovery will be guided by the information that's in the plan. And so I appreciate that you made the time for me to update you on the plan and put it on the schedule tonight. And I look forward to getting it out into the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
I didn't know if you had a desire to have any questions or.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, right now I can't see if anyone's raising their hand. Oh, there we go. And I think we're all muted at the moment, but we'll just look and see. If anyone has a comment or question, quick. Mr. Vaughn?
Thank you. I have two quick questions. If we were to do our own research, Brenda, what do we know of any cities in the, I'll call it the Midwest or even the United States that had success continuing the art success that we've had? Is there any cities that we should be looking at to say, look what they did, continue the arts? And then my second question is, do you think our community needs I'll call it an event or something to keep like the Edina Art Fair or the Egan Art Festival or even the Great Think Off that small town New York Mills has? Do we need that in our community to get our identity out there even farther?
Yeah. So to your first question, I think a really great example would be looking at Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Has had a lot of success in building a plan and then really moving towards activating different parts of that plan in order to bring the arts to a stronger state, and that has helped with tourism. It's helped in job growth. And so I would say that that's a really great city to take a look at. Mankato has also been pretty active in initiating a plan and then also, trying to activate parts of that plan. A little bit bigger scale population, but those are two cities that I've looked to as examples within the state of Minnesota.
Thank you.
Throughout the country, there's varying levels of success. One of the tried and true go-to things probably from the 80s and 90s, maybe even starting in the 70s, was to build art centers. And that hasn't really proven to be necessarily the best thing to do, because you'd have to have something on a scale of like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Phipps Center in Hudson, Wisconsin. It's really a huge undertaking and has all kinds of spaces for arts activity of all kinds of dance, performance, rehearsal, stages. But it takes a lot to actually run that kind of an operation, staffing, funding, and most art centers, by the time the value engineering got done, it ended up sort of being one stage and didn't really do much. So suffice it to say, I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes just thinking of like, is there one thing, isn't necessarily the way to create more vibrancy. It's looking at peppering a lot of different areas that are going to attract a broader population. Having one stage can bring in audiences, but having a stage and having some music venues and having some other types of activities, maybe a visual arts festival, a gallery opening, a walk, something like that. So ways to try and bring in people year-round on a regular basis, and one event or one organization isn't necessarily going to do that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
and just one other thought is, I think of like an event like Art Whirl in Minneapolis, in Northeast Minneapolis, that brings in 30,000 people to the neighborhood over that one weekend, which is great. And a lot of businesses do their best, profit making during that one weekend and kind of sets them up for the year. But it doesn't necessarily have the bigger multiplying effect over time, because it is a one time of the year. So some of the smaller businesses nearby don't necessarily benefit as much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Belsanek?
Yes, thank you. Brenda, this is always exciting to have these statistics come before us. I know your group did a presentation last fall. I still have it here with me, as a matter of fact. As a professional artist, my whole career has focused on the arts and what we can do to enhance to the general public a lifestyle that brings us beyond just the meat and potatoes. I worked at the Renaissance Festival doing some designing, designed a theater in the round, a lot of different high schools and colleges around the area my whole life. And some things that you did touch on. I know, for example, that there's a tremendous influence of the arts on students in school. They do better in their studies. They are less of a problem. They are more highly motivated to advance not only the cause of the arts, but the cause of other things that they feel really good about. That to me is a tremendous benefit of the arts in terms of doing that. Commissioner Vaughn had asked, what could we do to focus on Hastings as a place for performing art or visual art, whatever it should happen to be. And it's just a suggestion that I would throw out to HPAC is to take a look at if and when, and let's hope that life gets back to normal again at some point, but we have a car show that goes on in the summertime, and it draws a huge number of people. It has always occurred to me that it would be great if we could do something in terms of performance art, in addition to people just walking around and enjoying the artwork that is the classic and antique automobiles that are being presented. Take better advantage of the pavilion. Could performance take place there? Either, as they say, visually, a concert, a play, something along that line. We have that area under the bridge, which I've always felt has been totally underutilized. And it would be a great place for performance. And I've gone down there and I've found that acoustically, it's pretty good. I did a little testing on my own, and there would be very little need for augmenting vocalizations in that area. Also looking down at Confluence between Lock and Dam Road and the building, there's going to be a very spacious park there and a platform that is raised that could be used for performances as well. I get a little envious of cities like Winona with their Shakespeare Festival and things like that. And so I think there's a tremendous opportunity for the arts to become a focal point at some of the things that we are doing right now in the city of Hastings. It would really be a great benefit. Rivertown Days, besides the parade, besides the fireworks, could we do something in terms of performance? Invite community bands to come and perform throughout the week. Minnesota, a lot of people are not aware of this, but Minnesota has more community bands than any other state in the United States. We have so many of them out there. We have a good one right here in Hastings, as a matter of fact, a very fine one. And in terms of performance arts, theater productions, as an example, we're second only to New York City in the number of live theater productions. That puts us ahead of Chicago, puts us ahead of Seattle, puts us ahead of all kinds of other cities. We just leave them in a cloud of dust. I used to give speeches about this to various groups over the years. So I encourage you to look at what we have and see if there's something that could be done to augment what is already going on. I think that would be tremendously exciting. The outdoors in the summertime, the wintertime, with Black Dirt Theater, I know they've performed at the Onion Grill, they performed at the Leduc, they performed in some people's living rooms, I believe, where the first act was in somebody's home, second act was in somebody else's home, so on and so forth. Very exciting to have these kinds of things going. And again, as a professional artist, I salivate looking at the opportunities that we have for things like this. But again, thank you so much for bringing all of this forward. And are you going to be doing a presentation at the City Council then pretty soon again?
I don't know. Yeah, the plan at this point is I'm working on finishing up the plan. There was a little bit of a delay just because of my other work was related to the issues.
Right.
There was some emergency work being done. But yeah, finishing up the plan, and I know that HPAC is looking at having their fundraising gala, I think virtually in September is the conversation. Right now, I don't know for sure on that. And, they'd like to be able to make the announcement that the plan is done and, and get it out there. So that's.
Well, I hope you think about doing a presentation at the City Council. We broadcast the meetings, and it always pleases me to hear how many people do watch the council meeting. So it would be a tremendous sounding board for the information that you presented to us tonight. This meeting, I know, is going to be broadcast as well. And a very large number of people do watch these meetings. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and just to follow up on what you mentioned, the arts are actually really, there are studies that show they do improve student outcomes dramatically, and especially for lower income students. They have a pretty dramatic effect for lower income students. But your idea of maybe combining events, that came up in a lot of conversations, and Under the Bridge was mentioned. So there's, so there a lot of the input that will come out in the plan. You've echoed other people within the community with these ideas, and so the plan will set those ideas out there. It'll be up to the community then to prioritize, the short and long-term goals of what you want to have happen.
Good.
Maybe some quick wins and then some long-term strategies.
Good. Nice to know that great minds are thinking alike.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll yield back to the chair.
Thank you. Just wanted to comment real quickly. I'm just very happy that we have a city that's very receptive to the arts and accommodating a large amounts of people here, and our police department's wonderful and the city's wonderful, and welcoming all of the arts. Okay, next on the agenda is the CARES funding. Mr. Hinsman, are you taking that item?
Yep, I could take that item here. Not a problem at all. I'm going to say goodbye to Brenda. Thank her for
Thank
joining
you so
us
much,
here.
Brenda.
Thank you all. Thank you. Have a great rest of the evening.
And let's see. Okay, I think you're down there. Okay, I'm all set to move forward here. So rest of the agenda here, I have a few updates. CARE Act funding. So for those of you that don't know what the CARES Act is, we received $1.75 million from the federal government for COVID relief for the COVID-19 public emergency. So over the last few council meetings, the council has discussed various ways in which to provide funding to the needs of various organizations and activities within the city. A couple of items related to economic development I wanted to share with you. One of them would be the local business grant program. Now, this would be an allocation of $250,000 for new grants. These would be $10,000 grants that would be piggybacking off of a program Dakota County is running right now. Dakota County has allocated $10 million, $1,000 or $10,000 grants. So 1,000 of those that would be able to fund. And that grant is open right now for applications until I think 4:30 tomorrow. Last time I checked, I think they received 1,600 grant applications. So they'll have a lot to consider. But they'll likely be in a situation in which they're not going to be able to fund all people that applied. And so cities were given the opportunity to piggyback onto that program with a portion of their CARES grant application, and we chose to do so. So we are offering $250,000, which would provide 25 $10,000 grants to businesses within the city. There's certain qualifications that need to be met, but the allocation of this funding would be random. There would be a random drawing of folks that would be out of the original Dakota County pool, and then there would be a random list of 25 businesses that would be given to the city for funding for our CARES money. And so we have allocated funding for that, $250,000 for the grant, $9,000 to cover some of the overhead and administration of this. So that is one activity that we're promoting, and we will be able to fund and help more businesses with, which is great. Also did an allocation of $250,000 to nonprofit organizations through a grant program. This is something in which the details are going to need to be more formally developed at this point. We're not sure exactly how best to do that. There'll be more information to come. But from our discussions with our city attorney, we thought the best way to allocate funding would be through HEDRA, because the rules regulating economic development authorities are more in tune with giving of grants than what a city council would have. And so there'll either be an allocation through there, and there may be some action for HEDRA in their near future related to that. Other good news is that the money that we've spent early on, before we knew there was going to be any sort of reimbursement from the feds, will be reimbursed through this CARES grant. That includes our $181,000 in the HEART grant that we did in May and June, as well as the $25,000 for various downtown barriers and activities. So those are items that have been acted upon by the council. The council is still looking at other activities to fund. I know this will be an item of discussion coming up at their meeting on August 17th. So I can stand for any questions that anybody has related to that.
Questions, commissioners? I believe that, you mentioned, Mike, you answered the question that I had. So anyone else? Okay, thank you.
And moving on to other updates here, we've had a lot of activity on the planning and development side over the last month or two, which is great to see. Looking at some of the business vacancy numbers, we do have a new restaurant. We have a number of new restaurants, which is kind of interesting related to the COVID. But Ella Original Mexican Restaurant opening up in the Cub Food Strip Center. We also have another restaurant opening up in the old Provincial Bank building at 1309 Vermilion Street. And no, it's not Hardee's. It's the Smoking Oak, which is an organization out of Red Wing. They're going to be buying the building and converting it back into a restaurant. For those of you that don't recall, that used to be the former Hardee's location. We also had a new business, a new organization move into our industrial park, which is great. The Westview Packaging Building, which is about a 70,000 square foot office warehouse building, has been vacant or underused for a number of years. Royal Pet, an organization out of South St. Paul, has purchased that building to relocate their operations. What they do is they do some manufacturing of pet food, and they're a seller of pet supplies. And so they'll be bringing, I think, about 20 jobs into that location. So a great addition to the Hastings Industrial Park, which will be good. And so we've had some changes there on the vacancy end of it. A development side, you can see the work going on at the Confluence, which continues. The utility work has been completed, streets open, which is good news. The roofing continues. Windows have been removed, as you can see from the packet there. Along the second floor, the top cupolas have been taken down to be refurbished. So work continues on that end of it. And we also had two new housing developments come forward for application. We have the Villas at Pleasant, which is 32 villa homes located at Pleasant and Northridge Drive. These would be targeted more towards empty nesters and seniors. And then we have the Sebin Ridge development, which is 116 home sites. This is west of General Sebin Drive, south of Seas Church. And this would be half single family lots and half villa home lots. So both of these applications are moving forward to our planning commission at the end of August and then to council in September. Both of these projects want to break ground yet this year, be able to get some of the utility work done so they can be ready for permits in the spring. So that's great news on the development side, that we're seeing that type of activity. And when you take a look at some of the activity that we've had between 2019 out to 2021, between the apartments that have been constructed and these residential subdivisions which are before us, and some other ones that are going to be in the hopper soon, like the Mint Headwaters development, senior development down on County Road 47, we're looking at nearly 500 units between what was built in 2019 and what will be approved through 2021, which is a substantial increase for us and should help our housing numbers out substantially. And from an economic development coordinator standpoint, we've made an offer to an individual, which is great, going through the background checks on that person, and we hope to have him here shortly. Individual brings a number of great projects and expertise, local experience, and we're eager to have him start. So any questions on any of the updates?
No, I'm just excited to find out how much the Confluence apartments are going to be, because I want to first bid. So get in touch with Pat. I'm just looking at the view out there and I already know I want one, but yeah. I want to be the first one in there. I'm just saying.
I hear you there. Yeah, it's something else for you out there.
We might have to have a lottery because we're all going to be like chomping at the bit to get it. And I don't want the rent to go up too much.
Well, I haven't told Dan this yet, but I'm planning to put my office up there.
Me too. Okay, well, great. I love that. Yeah. Although I love my office, where it is. I might have to have both. We'll see.
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay. Any comments on business? We're rescheduling the September meeting. Mr. Balsanic, yes.
Yeah, just a quick question, John. At Royal Pet, I'm assuming they're manufacturing, they're not doing any retail, or are they?
I don't believe, Commissioner, they're doing any retail. I think it's more manufacturing. They do a lot of online sales. Okay, thank you.
Good question. Well, maybe they'll have some products to sell, off market sometime. We'll see.
Yeah. And then I wanted to discuss the September regular meeting, which would be September 10th. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I'll be out west and I won't be here for that meeting. I was looking at potentially holding it a week earlier. I did hear from one individual that they will also be on vacation. So, we could potentially look at this on September 24th, which would be Thursday night, and look at that as a potential rescheduled date. And just wanted to touch base with folks here to see if that is a date that might work.
As personally, I don't have a conflict with any of the dates mentioned thus far, or, anyone else?
That would work for me as well.
That would work for me.
I will pencil that in, and we will not be meeting on the 10th, and we will have a meeting on the 24th. In addition to that, I thank you for your participation in having a workshop on August 27th, which will be coming up in 2 weeks. And again, we're going to be having that one in person and spending time to discuss the development options on Block 1. And I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to discuss that in person without the developers present, so that we can determine a course to move forward on this. So I appreciate your participation in that.
Give me that date again, 27th?
Yeah, August, is it, or did I get that wrong? Let me see here. I know it's a Thursday morning at 8 a.m. That I remember.
27th at 8 a.m.
Yes, yeah,
Oh, yes.
August 27th, 8 a.m., correct.
And is that going to be a Zoom or a meeting at the?
That'll be a meeting here, Commissioner, in City Hall, upstairs in the community room. That's the large open room above the council chambers. So we'll be able to spread people out there and have social distancing.
Are we going to try and do something with acoustics so we can hear each other? It's just so difficult for me to hear in that room.
It's a good point, Commissioner. And I was thinking that as I stated, community room. We have the option of moving things around in the council chamber as well, that we could put tables down there. That's acoustically better. So let me see if that would work. I think that would be a better that would be easier for us to converse and hear each other. So I'll try that.
Okay, either that, or if we can mic the community room, that would be very helpful. It just always has been, not just for me, but a lot of other people.
I hear you.
As well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's all I had for business tonight.
Guys, thank you, John. Motion to adjourn. I'll put it out there. I'll forward a motion to adjourn. Mr. Vaughn?
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned for the evening, and I'll see you guys in person, which is going to be fun in a week or so. And everyone take care. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you, guys.